Listen, the other big issue this morning, obviously, is the civil war that has broken out within Te Pāti Māori. And I want to talk about that for a second because this civil war and the conduct of some of its leading protagonists tells us an awful lot about why you shouldn't say nothing when you are confronted with sheer nastiness, racism, and corruption. All right? Now, at the moment, despite the mainstream media reporting stuff, what has been absent from looking at the meltdown that is the Te Pāti Māori Civil War is what it tells us about nepotism, corruption, violence, and extremism within that political milieu. And how that, although it is evident and obvious to the rest of us, we can now see it in all its dramatic, gory glory relief, that is still not being commented upon to any great degree by the mainstream media of this country. They report the facts, but they leave their condemnation and commentary to the sideline other than to say, oh, it's all very messy. No, 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 no. It's gone way beyond messy. This civil war that's taken place in Te Pāti Māori has, in actual fact, the curtains dropped. We're now seeing both that particular party, that particular movement, those particular activists, and that particular philosophy actually as it is. I've argued a long time that I've been sitting here for the last 3 years, yes, ever since I've been on the platform, saying, look, I feel like sometimes I've been the small boy at the Emperor's Clothes Parade. And now, finally, the rest of, well, we've all caught up. I'm sure we were all there, weren't we all there together? We were all small boys pointing and being ignored by our elders and betters, were we not? But now the rest of the country is starting to turn and see that the Maori activist movement, Te Pāti Māori, and all of those people who preached these wonderful thoughts about the rejuvenation of the Maori culture, te reo, the language, and how it's all dreadful what you colonials do, are exposed for their racism, their bigotry, their violence, and their corruption, which they've always been. But, can't possibly say that because, oh dear Lord, the Maori leaders. And this is the other thing, and I learned this through 6 years sitting on the Maori Affairs Select Committee. There is no such thing as Maori any more than there's any such thing as Pākehā or anything, or that we are European New Zealanders or Asians or Chinese or Indians or whatever. There might be a particular ethnicity with a predominant culture, but the reality is that Maori are no more homogenous than European New Zealanders are. I mean, I've just talked, for example, about the extremes, about the Greens on one hand and, say, ACT on the other. Pākehā dominated by European New Zealanders. So we're all the same, are we? Clearly not. And Maori New Zealand is exactly the same. And that was a thing that it took me a while to get my head around. But thank God I sat for 6 years on the Maori Affairs Select Committee. I think I was the only European on it, in actual fact, for all of that period of time. It was a great instruction to me, and I was sitting around people that I liked and admired and respected, even though they weren't in my political party. But it was the obvious lesson. Maori do not think as one unity, and it's the common mistake that liberal, white, mainstream media make. Oh, well, Te Pāti Māori must represent all Maori. No, it doesn't, never has, never will, and now it's been exposed, as I said, as its racist, violent, activist core that Maori reject as much as Europeans. But here's the issue. Maori are pretty good, thanks very much, at working out who are the right ones and who are the wrong ones, and they are actually quite generous in giving people plenty of time to hang themselves, whereas Europeans tend to go, that's not very nice, we'll move straight away. Maori do give you enough rope, until finally you have jumped off the cliff, and boy, you're falling a long way before the rope starts to bite into your neck. That's one cultural difference between European and Maori, I have to say. They let you really hang yourself. And Te Pāti Māori are doing that, thank you very much, and on a pretty dramatic basis. But can I say, we also shouldn't feel too smug about the antics that are happening within Te Pāti Māori, because if I was a National Party voter and supporter, I should remember the 2020 election, which only happened 5 years ago, and the 3 years that preceded that. Remember the leadership problems of the National Party at the time? Bill English, then Bridges, then the crazy guy whose name I can't remember, and then Judith Collins was meant to be the sort of, here we go. Well, Judith was only ever put up there because, for God's sake, it's all got really bad, Judith, here you go. She was sort of like the cleaner in a Quentin Tarantino movie. There were the leaks, there was the caucus hatred, there were the unattractive public personalities, there were the affairs, remember that? And then, who could remember and who has forgotten and who still doesn't shudder at the image and the name of Jamie Ross? Anyone in a realm of National Party MPs, I have to say at the time, stepping down for a whole series of personal behavioural reasons that, seem all rather prosaic in actual fact compared to what's happening and playing out in Te Pāti Māori at the moment. So just before people get two things going, oh my God, that's the Māori, do you remember the National Party 5 years ago, just quietly, all right? And I'll tell you what, they were not. Although I suspect corruption wasn't a good part of it. They were more into sort of just knifing each other on a continual basis. Here's the question. Now, here's the next part of this question as it leads on. Switch back to today. Who's been conspicuous by their absence and by their lack of commentary in the last 72 hours on the corruption, the violence, the racial hatred that's happening within Te Pāti Māori? Can I ask who's been conspicuously absent? Well, I'll tell you who's been conspicuously absent. The current employer of Eru Kapa Kingi. And Eru Kapa Kingi stands condemned for all of the pejoratives that I've already just used in this editorial this morning. They are all epithets and observations and character, if you like, characterizations that could be easily applied to Eru Kapa Kingi this morning, all the pejorative words that I've used, because his actions have demonstrated that he is all of those things. Now, Eru Kapa Kingi, and this is critical, the leader, the activist, the person who apparently was lionized by the liberal media for Toitu Teituriti and for taking populist action and galvanizing so-called Māoridom towards or the opposition to the Treaty Principles Bill on the hikoi. Remember that? Of course you do. Toitu Teituriti spokesperson Eru Kapa Kingi stands at the middle of what is the dysfunction of Te Pāti Māori. He obviously threatened the leadership of Te Pāti Māori, and they've obviously responded by doing what you do when you are threatened and you are a political leader of this country. You dump on your opposition. And I have to say, Te Pāti Māori leadership have done a very effective job dumping on Eru Kapa Kingi and his MP mother. They've done a very good job of it, to the point where Eru Kapa Kingi has a reputation that is now damaged beyond salvation. All right? You will not see him appear in public life for quite some time. Certainly not the rest of this year, probably not the rest of last. I'll tell you what, if there is any sort of reconciliation, it'll be like, I don't know, Hamas and the Israeli Defense Force sitting down and signing some sort of document together and giving each other a hug at the end of it. Yeah, you can't see that either. I can't see this. No reconciliation with the Kapa Kingis either. But the irony is that the Te Pāti Māori leadership decided to expose the nepotism, the racism, the hatred, the racial hatred, the corruption of Eru Kapakingi in their document release of Sunday night to their party membership, which of course they knew would find its way into the mainstream media.